Alright, time for some cyberpunk conspiracies about Adam Smasher.
Interesting!
The discussion has already begun on my last video where I showed what happens if you refuse to hide from him, as well as other places online apparently, but basically here's the thing. If you pay back the money you took from Victor before doing the Arasaka heist, with Jackie and T-Bug,
I want more Aristotle.
Fuck off, both.
Yeah.
You can purchase a Kiroshi mod called Threat Detector. What it does is highlighting enemies who have detected you. Now if you install that mod and proceed with the heist, you will notice something quite interesting.
Interesting!
Specifically, Adam Smasher himself lights up red when he enters Yorinobu's apartment, suggesting that he has in fact detected your presence. It's also worth mentioning that none of the other people in the room are highlighted in such a way. But frankly, even without it, if you take a closer look at Smasher, he does appear to be staring directly at you throughout the whole scene, which might make you feel a little uneasy. And he also has this circular animation thing in front of him. Honestly, I can't tell exactly what it is. Could it be some form of scan he's performing on the building? Or the room? Or maybe he's communicating with someone? I have no idea. But anyway, what is the deal with all of this? Is it just a bug or an oversight? Or does he really detect your presence and refuse to do anything about it? Well, first off, I think V and Jackie should be fairly easy to detect in this situation. The wall or glass or whatever it is that separates you from the rest of the room seems fairly thin, and V even makes a comment about how the place is definitely not soundproof.
Yet another ass-licking legend.
Shh! Doubt this copy's soundproof.
Additionally, Smasher has got to have the highest tier cybernetics. After all, on top of being more machine than man, he is also head of Arasaka security and personal guard of Yorinobu, so if our mods can highlight him, he should have no issue using some kind of thermal scan or whatever else that he has at his disposal to detect our presence. In fact, the very first time I played through this part of the game, and back then I did not have the mod installed, I actually thought that Takemura managed to detect us, but for some reason he did not say anything. I began theorizing that he probably wants to betray Arasaka or is secretly working with Dex or something, and I was clearly wrong. But just look at how obviously he walks over and looks exactly to where you are and then starts scanning. Well, it turns out he's unable to finish the scan or something.
Arasaka-sama, mada body check ga owatte imasen.
Watashi no musuko da.
I don't know, still makes me wonder how is it that he failed to detect the people that were hiding right under his nose? Did he just walk over to this spot, look in our direction, but then began scanning the area from behind or something? I don't know how this works. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that we actually detect that he initiated a scan. This message pops up on top of our screen, and there is no such thing when looking at Smasher, even when scanning him. So maybe he isn't actually scanning us? I don't know. But okay, now let's assume he is seeing us and not saying anything. Let's talk about his potential motivation. Most of you in the comments of my previous video seem to think that he simply doesn't see us as a threat and just wants to wait and see what happens instead of interrupting the meeting. Perhaps he's even slightly amused by the whole situation. And I suppose that makes a certain degree of sense. Even though you can play a good amount of time before doing the heist, gather gear and experience and whatnot, I think the canon story still assumes that you're not that special yet. This is in fact your first big job, you're probably not yet able to afford any expensive cybernetics, you are also unarmed, you leave your gun in the car, so I would assume that the game is trying to make it look like you're not truly much of a threat at this point. Even though you can actually take Yorinobu's gun at his bed, the game sadly does not allow you to use it against Smasher, assuming you refuse to run. Also, fun fact, but the gun is actually styled in purple, just like everything else in his room. Oh, and by the way, did you know that you can loot Saburo Arasaka's body and take his dog tag? I don't actually know what it's for, but it's possible. I suppose another more conspiratorial theory could be that Smasher somehow realizes that you've stolen the chip and wants to let you get away with it. You know, he's had a thing against Johnny for the longest time, and perhaps he knows somehow that Silverhand still lives, in a way, inside that chip, but he can't get his hands on it and destroy it while Arasaka has it. So perhaps he wants you to take it so he can track you down and put an end to Johnny this way? Honestly, I don't think that works either, at least based on what happens later in the story, and even the exchanges during the final encounter with Smasher do not suggest anything like that. So ultimately, it may just be a bug. Or it could be that the developers simply didn't think that you may have this mod installed at this point. I mean, the game fails to account for the fact that you haven't unlocked different endings in some of the pre-ending dialogue with Johnny. For example, he would say that you should let him take over and go to Rogue, even if you haven't done his quest.
You heard him. We've got one last chance. I'm taking the wheel. Endotrizine, Rogue, Saka Tower. Only way this is gonna work.
And 2 minutes later you realize that you cannot do what he just asked you to do, because you haven't actually unlocked that ending.
Wanna trust Pan Am and her tarmac rats? Fine. But it'll be their lives weighing heavy on your soul. And if you take Arasaka's deal, well, you'll have your own soul on your conscience.
So anyway, I wouldn't put it past them to simply not account for the situation here. It's also worth mentioning that Adam Smasher is the only NPC in this room which you are capable of legitimately fighting. So maybe that's why the others are not lighting up as well, because they're just considered friendly.
Mercy is disgusting!
Additionally, based on my attempts at running and hiding from him around this room, it seems like he ignores any kind of line of sight obstructions.
Are you built to endure?
So it could be that the game's engine does not register our character as being hidden at all, and that's why Adam Smasher appears as though he's seeing us. But anyway, I think that's all I had on the matter. It's certainly an interesting detail, if it is a detail at all and not an oversight, and if any of you knows or speculates anything else on the matter, feel free to let us know down in the comments. Okay, thank you very much for watching, thank you for your support, and until the next video, stay tuned and be good.